Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As we enter the room, you know how we were taught to speak to everybody in the room. So, hi. So, I don't know what's going on with my phone, but I am live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So, good morning. Welcome to a weekend wrap up of the Contractor's Chatter. Oh, wow. Yeah, I got my shot yesterday. And with all this research and development dollars running around here, can somebody please develop the technology so that they can just, press this thing against your skin and it disperses through the skin? Star Trek technology. Because these needles got to go. But welcome, welcome, welcome. I am feeling a little bit better today, so I have a little more energy. So let's get this party started. So, the major talk on the Hill is the trimming of that $2 trillion budget. And I don't know who thought they was going to pass that mega monolith $3 trillion. They trimmed it down to two. And basically, all they're doing is taking these projects that they intended to fund for 10 years and they're slicing the funding down to 5 years, 2 years. I believe they finally removed the stimulus package from this bill, which I never thought was going to get passed anyway. Right, that budget was ridiculous. I'm discovering that something I was told when I was in my 20s that I totally rejected is true. I am a fiscal conservative. I fully understand you can't just print money. We have to pay for this. And some of the ways they wanted to pay for this was going to be painful to somebody. And if we weren't going to overhaul our tax code, that somebody was going to be the middle class because the middle class is the only ones that pay taxes at a high level. And in the middle class pay taxes at a high level because middle class do not know how to use the tax code to their advantage. They go to H&R Block or they use TurboTax.com to do their taxes. They don't invest the money in sound tax advice, or and that's just the truth. And I didn't find that out or fully recognize that until I started my business and I started talking to tax professionals. And I was like, oh, that's how it's done. Oh, that's really legal. A lot of people are running around with this misconception that not paying corporations not paying taxes are illegal, and it's not. You should pay no more than your fair share of taxes. You should not be overpaying taxes. But then that's why we need an overhaul of our tax code and we need an overhaul of our spending patterns. And this isn't appropriate for our this platform because that's what we talk about here. How can we modify the current laws, rules, and regulations that is advantageous to everyone? Because if you tax businesses, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to stop creating jobs or they're going to raise prices. And what we're already seeing is increased prices. Now, I was reading this. Now, granted, social media will give you a false sense of what the public at large really thinks. It really will. But I was reading this commentary on the jobs and if there are really jobs out here. And I was reading on the job board where this man was talking about he was hiring entry level positions, 17.50 an hour. And the comments about how that's not enough money is entry level. Who's going to pay you $30 an hour and you have absolutely no skills? And then want to argue that your business model is defective. I really believe this country, and it stems from my leadership, is having erroneous conversations. We're having conversations around living wages, which everybody's entitled to, but we're having them incorrectly, where you're giving this narrative that everybody's entitled to $30 an hour with no skills. That's not how it works. You don't graduate high school to a $30 an hour job. McDonald's, people got mad with the CEO of Wendy's when this first started. When she stood before Congress and said, Wendy's and McDonald's were not designed to raise families. They were entry level jobs for high school students, jobs for retirees who wanted something to do. If you wanted to move up through the ranks and move into management, that's where you made the money to take care of your family. I knew a girl, she went to high school with my sister, but she started at McDonald's working after school 3, 4 days a week and on the weekends. Everybody else was going to the mall. She was going to McDonald's to work her shift. When I was going to college and needed to get a job during the summer, it was anyway, I worked at McDonald's for a while. She was a manager and making good money, but she worked her way into that. That's what McDonald's is for. That's what Wendy's is for. Nobody saw where people would get there flipping burgers and fries and stop and thought you would make enough money to raise a family. And I don't know where the dynamic shifted, where we now think that these fast food places are supposed to be paying $30 an hour. I don't know where it's coming from. And I remember this was the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. He was the CEO of Chipotle. If anybody knows, Chipotle has totally shifted their model. He talked about how in that industry, there's this a whole shift. The pandemic is accelerating that shift. And this whole push for a quote living wage in that industry is further fueling that shift. Where they're like anything that can be done automatically is going to be automated. I know the McDonald's down the street from me, you order at a kiosk. If you want to order and pay cash, you still place your order at a kiosk and pay at the register, but you have to stand at the register for a minute before somebody comes up and cashes you out. And I noticed that my kids turned 10 Sunday. Um, I noticed that 4 years ago, when one of the other McDonald's, because I used to take my kids to McDonald's after school once a week as a treat. I noticed that when they put it in one of the McDonald's, and then I noticed another McDonald's had it, but I also noticed the staff started declining. I stopped seeing 20 people per shift, and then I started seeing 15 people. Now, if I see 10 people in there, I'm doing something. So when McDonald's announced that they were offering $15, that's in keeping with that shift in model. And people are jumping on that whoopee hooray. However, that's in keeping with that model shift. And what are you going to eventually have to do for that $15 and $17 an hour? You're still not going to be an entry level, no skilled worker working at McDonald's for $17 an hour. I really believe that and as business owners, I understand when Now, I've always overpaid my staff because I believe in equity. Fairness is a concept that doesn't belong in business because you can't be fair because what's fair to one person isn't fair to another. No two people believe the same thing are fair, but you can treat everybody equitably. You can treat everybody decently. And I know that's splitting a hair, but that is what it is. But that's a conversation business owners are having on a regular basis now. With this younger generation automatically coming in with this, we're not going to take what our ancestors took and our parents stayed at these jobs to be abused, and we're not having it. What we're going to see, now I'm making a prediction, those who have a true work ethic are going to excel. Those who come in with the attitude of I'm going to design my own shift, and if you don't work with me, I'm a quit. Won't. We're going to see a total revolution in our society when it comes to how we conduct business, our workforce, our labor force. We're going to see our generation staying in the workforce a lot longer and being able to write our own tickets. Now, this whole narrative around everybody becoming an entrepreneur, that's dead. Everybody's not meant to run a business. Everybody doesn't want to run a business. That's where this whole if you're getting paid more than $600 through Cash App, it has to be reported in 1099 is coming from. A lot of people are doing side hustle, which I don't knock it. You had to do something through the pandemic to pay your bills. But everybody isn't a business owner because business owners pay bills. They set up a legitimate structure. You get advisors. You understand that you don't know it all and you need a source and a resource. Oh, yes, there's a new rule that passed. One, banks have to report any transaction to the IRS in excess of $600. Two, any transaction that goes through Cash App, Venmo, PayPal in excess of $600 has to be 1099 now. So people, and they did that with eBay years ago. I believe it was like 10 or 11 years ago. Now they're hitting Venmo and Cash App. A lot of people are starting up side businesses and using Cash App to get around taxes. That way they wasn't declaring themselves businesses, and it was a means to stop people from being able to do chargebacks. I was in a whole clubhouse room where people were complaining about getting scammed, where they were paying for classes that never took place. But they paid through Cash App. And so they had no means to, they had no means to do a chargeback because Cash App doesn't allow that even in their business. Cash App has a business modality, but there's no chargeback in there. And even with the ones that were trying to get together and do like a class action suit, PayPal is actually, I'm going to get to PayPal in a minute. Even the ones that's getting ready to do this class action to sue this woman, here's the problem with Cash App. Unless you put in the memo or in the notation what that money was for, all that person have to do was say they just gave me a donation for speaking on a platform. You're hard pressed to prove unless you have something from that person saying it was for a class that they didn't deliver. Now PayPal is I forget what they call PayPal, but PayPal basically, if you accept payments through PayPal, you can deliver and a person can do a chargeback and they will just do the chargeback. Square is the same way. You can submit all your proof, which is why um, now I know my bank, now Wells Fargo recommends small businesses just starting out to use Stripe. And that's because Stripe is a little more robust. When you do a chargeback, they actually allow you to fight the chargeback and they give you time to fight the chargeback. Square and PayPal do this, they send you one or two emails and that's it. And I know with PayPal, you can send somebody, you can send them the proof that you delivered and they will still return the money to the person. That's just how PayPal operates. So you're doing business at a risk with PayPal. Now, I was told I have to do a little more research on it. PayPal is changing that model. I don't know the truth of it. However, we are business owners, and I'm going to I have PayPal, I don't use it. I'm getting ready to put my foot in my mouth and just say this. If you're a business owner with a coaching, consulting business, I would tell you don't use PayPal. Use Stripe. If you have to, use Square. And if somebody doesn't want to pay you and they only want to use PayPal, that would send up red flags to me because what I've noticed, the only person I've had chargebacks done on me, and they were always people who insisted on using PayPal. Now they got their service, but they always came up with something funky. And they was always somebody who insisted on PayPal. And at the time, because I was also working while doing my business, I was just like, whatever. Eventually, and when you look at the processing fees and everything, it is just as economical to use the bank that you run your bank account through and use their processing server. Build it into your pricing. I'm going to have a pricing class that will show you how to do that. You build all these prices into your pricing. You can write the money off on your taxes. So all of this, I can't afford it, is because you're not building it into your prices. I have a problem with this business model of making your clients pay your overhead. I think that stinks because on the back end, you're not telling me they're not also following it on their taxes. That's double dipping. I'm sorry. That is what it is. But the expert scammers, yes, there are people who make. Now, I saw there's this one coach, she has an awesome policy. Once you do a chargeback on her, she refunds you your money, and you cannot purchase from her ever again. And I actually am in the process of redoing my policies and procedures, and that's my new chargeback policy, and it's in everything. I don't care if you get a 99-cent product from me. I mean, I don't sell anything for 99 cents. But that's in my new policy. You do a chargeback, especially if you do a chargeback and you never reach out to me. You don't even give me an opportunity to make it good. She has a nice little language where she sends back saying, I mean, her verbiage, matter of fact, I told her I was borrowing her verbiage. I told her that I borrowed it, I tweaked it to fit my business. I always run my stuff through my attorney. I write all of my own policies, procedures, and stuff, but I run it through an attorney because I'm not one and I don't play one on TV. And even if I was one, I would still run it through an attorney. And but yes, you can't buy from me because what you won't do is keep getting my service and keep scamming me out of my money. And there are people who are professional scammers out here. They get your service, they attend your events, do chargebacks so that they can run their business off of your knowledge. And I don't see how they believe they can do business like that, but there are people like that out here, which is why you need to have systems, coaches to tighten up your thing because you are entitled to the protection of your intellectual property. And you work hard for what you know. And you've paid the dues for your lessons that you are sharing with your clientele. And they are paying for it. And so that they can then in turn around. And if we had a system where people just showed honor and integrity along the way, we could all benefit. But we see this inflation in everything that we have because, quite frankly, you have to build in the cost for chargebacks. And then you have to build in costs for the extra insurance. You have people who are professional suers. They just go around suing people. That's their business model because they hoping that you'll settle. Their whole business model is just to see who we can sue today. So it just amazes me. But I've been on here long enough today. I have a plethora of stuff to do. Those 4 or 5 days I was sick threw me way behind schedule. I have a book that I'm releasing Black Friday. I still have my virtual summit. I'm still trying to hold fast to my November 1st launch date, which means I got to get this party started. And I still have some recordings to do. I have my boot camp that I'm doing. It was going to be in December. It's going to be in January. I'm pushing that off. And I have my mastermind that I am launching in January as well. So LT&A has a whole lot going on. So yes, I am starting. Today is the first day that I've actually felt like I don't look like Walking Death and didn't have to apply a layer of makeup to keep from looking like what I felt like. But thank you for the well wishes. I will see you Monday morning for another installment of Contractor's Chatter. Have a great, amazing weekend. Get some rest. I plan on resting. Take the kids out. We're going to do something fun this weekend. And I'll see you Monday. Have a good one.